The moment I say, let's build as much muscle as possible, but I don't want to get bulky. That is the biggest myth ever. It is time to squash, to kill that myth once and for all. I'm going to show you a simple graph. And once you understand it, you're never going to wonder how to get your ideal body again. That is where you get that toned, sculpted look. For the best result, aim for, I hear it all the time. Sometimes people even say it out loud, but most of the time, I could see them thinking it. The moment I say, let's build as much muscle as possible, someone, either silently or out loud, says, but I don't want to get bulky. That is the biggest myth ever. It is time to squash, to kill that myth once and for all. Here's the myth. Muscle makes people bulky. That ain't true. Here's the truth. Muscle plus fat makes people look bulky. Muscles alone make you look toned and sculpted. I'm going to show you a simple graph. And once you understand it, you're never going to wonder how to get your ideal body again. On the x-axis, we have fat mass. On the y-axis, we have muscle mass. If you have low fat and low muscle, you just look skinny. If you have high fat and relatively low muscle, then you look what we typically refer to as fat. Important sidebar here. This is not about body shaming. There is zero judgment here. This is purely about how the body changes, how body composition, aka fat to muscle ratio, affects appearance, and how to change if that is your goal. If you're overweight and healthy and active and love the way that you look, that's amazing. If you're overweight with poor metabolic markers, let's work on your health first. Appearance is optional, but health should be a priority. Okay, but let's get back to the graph. If you have high fat and relatively high muscle, that is what gives you that bulky look, that layer of fat covering your large muscles. Now, if you have low fat and relatively high muscle, that is where you get that toned, sculpted look. That's because your skin is wrapping tightly around your muscles. Now, keep in mind, everything is a spectrum. It's not like an on and then off switch, or it's not like you go from 5 units of fat mass and you are skinny, and then you go to 6 units and you're fat, right? It's a spectrum. So what is it that creates the sculpted look? What you are seeing when someone looks sculpted or defined is this: muscle, which is hard and structured, skin, which is wrapping tightly around that muscle, and then not much fat between the two. Think of it like this. If you put a zucchini in a balloon, that balloon is going to take the shape of that zucchini. The balloon in this case is your skin. The zucchini is your muscle. Why did I choose zucchini? It's the closest thing I could think of that has a similar shape to the muscles on our body. But if you were to put water into a balloon and let's say set it on the table, that balloon is going to deform and wiggle around. Water in this case is your fat. And again, the balloon is your skin. So why do bigger muscles create more definition? Muscles taper. They have one end that connects to a bone and then the muscle and the other end that connects to a bone. So as one muscle ends, another one begins. That natural structure of muscle is what creates defined shape. Your shoulders to your arm, your triceps and your biceps down to your forearms. And if there's too much fat on top of your muscle, that definition between your muscles starts to get lost. Plus, that extra layer of fat adds visual volume and mass to your frame, and that is what makes you look bulky. So, to drive this home, to look sculpted, muscles need to grow. Fat needs to shrink into a healthy rate. So which quadrant are you in, and how do you move into the one that you want to be in? If you're in the high fat, low muscle or the conventional fat group, to get sculpted, you need to both put on muscle and lose fat. The bulky group So high fat, but also relatively high muscle means you're probably already resistance training or maybe genetically gifted. All you need to do is dial in your nutrition to lose some of that fat mass. If you're in the skinny part, low fat, low muscle, to get sculpted, you need to start resistance training and upping your protein. And if you are in the sculpted, AKA low fat, high muscle group, this is the goal. You still want to be in a healthy fat range. For women, that's typically between 18 to 24% for that sculpted toned look while still being in a healthy range. Okay, now let's talk about the big fear. I don't want to look like a female bodybuilder. You won't. You literally can't naturally. Those physiques require anabolic steroids. And even bikini competitors, depending on the association that they're with, use anabolic steroids. Again, absolutely no judgment. These are truly competitors in a sport that are doing what is allowed or regulated if they are, of course, not in a natural competition. Now, coming back to women naturally make relatively small amounts of testosterone as compared to men. Therefore, building muscle is harder for women than it is men. So if you push as hard as you can, train consistently, try to put on as much muscle as you can, and drop fat into a healthy low range, you will not look bulky. You will look sculpted, period. Now let's talk about the tiny percent exception. Whenever I say you won't accidentally get bulky from lifting weights, there's somebody out there thinking, but what if I'm the exception? If you have to ask the question, you're not the exception. 99.999% of the women out there do not put on muscle easily. In fact, for most women, putting on muscle is hard because of our hormone physiology. For that 0.0001% of women who gain muscle without trying, you already know that you're that person. And if you feel like you're gaining too much muscle, and again, your fat mass is in that low healthy range, here's the solution. Just stop lifting. Your muscles will go back to the way that they were. If you still want to be physically active, you can incorporate more cardio, very light resistance, and mobility and stretching. Muscle is not permanent. It shrinks when the stimulus is removed. Trust me, I wish it was. Okay, so how do we build muscle for every quadrant? Step one is to resistance train. You want to train a minimum of 2 times a week. If you train 4 to 6 times a week, you will get 3 times faster the result. If you're not sure where to start, I have created the Built by Linda virtual studio. You can try it free for 14 days for 2 weeks. I'll put the link in my description. You can also find the QR code on the screen here. If you're not quite ready to trial Built by Linda, I've also created a completely free workout that you can find also in the link in my description and at the end of this video. Step 2, eat enough protein. Your body can't build muscle without the building blocks of muscle, which is protein. With all the money in the world, you can't build a house without providing the materials to build it. The same is true with your body and muscle. Doesn't matter how much you work out. You're not getting enough protein, your body can't build the muscle. Aim for 20 to 30 grams every single meal at minimum. For the best result, aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight that you want to weigh. So let's say you're aiming to weigh 150 pounds. You want to get 150 grams of protein a day. Does that seem like a lot? Yes. Are there countless studies to show if you get this much protein, amazing changes will happen to your health, your body, your confidence? Hell yes. Do I meet this every single day? No. Do I aim for that every single day and get amazing results? A hell yes, number 2. Okay, step 3, diet for fat loss. 80% of fat loss has to do with nutrition. That means 20% comes from adding resistance training, adding physical activity, but that's Not quite enough. You really got to dial in the nutrition. That's why people say abs are made in the kitchen. To lose fat, you need to eat 300 to 500 fewer calories a day while resistance training consistently. Otherwise, you're going to lose both fat and muscle if you don't resistance train. Also, you don't want to cut more than 500 calories. Otherwise, that will also lead you to lose muscle. Now, the key here is to do it your way. You can do it through intermittent fasting. You can do it through cutting out a food group. You could do it by cutting out desserts. You could do it by cutting out fat or carbs. The key here is choose a method to reduce your calories that feels easy to you, not to your mother, not to your neighbor, not to your best friend that XYZ worked for, to you. That way it sticks. Scientifically shown, people who keep off weight often report it being easy for them to implement a specific diet that they can keep up with for the rest of their lives. So choose a way that feels easiest to you. Yes, I know I've said that so many times now, but I don't think it always lands. Really think about that sentence. Okay, I even made a free document, which you will find in the links in my description, that lists all the different ways, oh, maybe not all, many, many, many different ways in which you can reduce your calories. I want you to read through the list and then ask yourself, which of these would be easy for me to do? And then just implement it. All right, let's talk about a special case, the skinny fat individual. This is when you are a normal weight, but still high fat mass and low muscle. The goal here is still to put on as much muscle as you can while reducing your fat mass, but keeping your weight the same. The steps here are we're going to keep your calories the same, but we're going to swap some carbs and fat for more protein. Are we going to do this? First of all, always fill your plate with your protein source first. No matter if you're the skinny fat persona here or any of the other quadrants, or you are trying to lose fat and put on muscle, start with protein as your base for every meal. So by adding your protein to your plate first, which should increase in amount, again, go back to the timestamp on the screen to see how much protein that should be. Fill the rest of the plate like you normally would in terms of volume with the remaining carbs and fat, but there should be less because the protein is taking up more room on your plate. This is a crude way to keep your calories about the same while increasing your protein. This is going to allow you to maintain your weight while you recompose your body. You get more muscle, decrease that fat, and you start to get that sculpted look instead of that soft, skinny look. Over time, same weight, totally different body. Okay, one last thing here I want to talk about. Health should come before aesthetics. Let me say this clearly. Your appearance means nothing if your body isn't healthy. We care about health markers first, how your body functions before we care about how it looks. With people who are overweight with poor metabolic markers, that could be things like pre-diabetes, diabetes, high blood pressure, bad cholesterol, and triglycerides, just poor blood work in general. Start with physical activity and muscle building. Research shows that this alone can dramatically improve your metabolic markers. But if your blood work doesn't improve 3 to 6 months afterwards, up to 12 months afterwards, reducing the amount of fat mass on your body can substantially improve how your body functions. Not from shame, not because of how you should look, but because with muscle and low visceral fat, you just have better metabolic function and way less risk of disease. That's science, that's not opinion. So at that point, nutrition becomes part of the prescription, like medicine, but natural, and oftentimes way more potent than actual medicine. Again, at this point, this has nothing to do with body image or aesthetics. It has to do with cellular function, how your body responds to insulin, how your heart works under stress, how your brain ages. We're reducing fat mass in this case, not to fit an image, but to support the physical systems that keep people alive. So, just to drive home my core message here, everybody definitely deserves respect, but everyone also deserves good health. This isn't about looking a certain way unless you want to. This is about giving your body a better chance to thrive and looking how you want while you do it. Are you ready to start, but you don't know where to begin? Don't worry, I've already built it. You can try Built by Linda BBL Virtual Studio for 14 days free. Inside, I have a beginner workout as well as a calendar. The calendar is clickable. You click on the day that you're on, it opens the video and the workout that you do. All you have to do is show up, and I'll show up with you. Let's begin together.